This is Sports Charlotte, the podcast about sports in Charlotte. My name is Herb White. I'm editor-in-chief at the Charlotte Post. This is Cameron Williams, who is a staff reporter at the Post. It is September 25, 2025. Let's talk sports. Primarily, Charlotte 49ers.
All Charlotte 49ers athletics today.
Yeah, we've got football off this week.
Bye week. Whew.
And
they needed it.
Perhaps. And we're also going to talk basketball because it is that time of the year. So let's talk about football. And there's no game this week for the 49ers. And that doesn't mean they don't have plenty to work on.
Oh, Lord. That's right. I'll just go ahead and tee off because we play ready golf around here, and I'll tee off. Look, there were some folks asking for my betting advice and all this stuff on that game last week against Rice, and everyone, and rightfully so, they were optimistic after beating Monmouth. But again, FCS opponent, not a very good defense that Monmouth has. You have to, I guess, reel in your expectations. And everybody was asking about that Rice game because it was pretty close on the sports books, and I'm like, look, take Rice with whatever you want to put on it because I didn't see Charlotte played well enough in that first half, I think, to hang around. Now the score ended up being 28-17, and I think the wheels kind of fell off when Connor Harrell went down with his injury for one thing, but they just started running down their throats. Rice did to Charlotte, and that was the big point of emphasis, with that triple option that Rice had, is being able to stop the run. But even when they did load the box, there were a couple of times where they just lobbed one up and threw it over their heads, and that is exactly what we talked about last week on the podcast with what a triple option offense can do to teams. It reels everything in, and all of a sudden, bloop, you got a 40, 50-yard pass, and then when you try to guard the pass, then you got a bunch of shifty running backs and quarterbacks. And, man, I don't know if it was their starting running back or if it was their second guy, but there was one little guy out there. I mean, he might have been 170 pounds dripping wet, but he was quick as lightning. Mm-hmm. And he burnt Charlotte on a few big runs. Overall, it just wasn't a great showing, and when Connor went down, it was really rough. I'll be nice, rough. I know you texted me you were watching the game on TV. What did you think during that game, especially during the first half when Charlotte was keeping it manageable? Did you think they had a chance, or did you think eventually the wheels are going to come off?
I didn't necessarily think that the wheels would come off and they would just get dog walked. I just figured that at some point when you are facing an option first team, they're going to keep doing that. And as the game goes on, they're going to keep doing it. And the theory is they will ultimately wear you out. And that's what happened. Mm-hmm. The 49ers couldn't keep pace. They couldn't stop it, which is the first thing that you need to be able to do to hang in there. They couldn't stop it. And I was impressed that Rice has an offense that is balanced enough to where if they want to throw it, they can.
Yeah. And
that is ultimately what undid Charlotte, because you couldn't just stack the line of scrimmage to do anything with the run. And even when they did, the Owls were still running. And then once you suck that defense in long enough, if you decide you want to throw it, they could throw it with some effectiveness. So it was just a matter of how long will this go on? And like we talked about last week, Rice plays the option like the service academies, except for it has that added dimension of being able to throw it when they like. And that was pretty much what I expected. Within a couple of touchdowns, yeah, that would have been it. But I wasn't surprised by anything. I thought Charlotte did very well, I thought, especially in the first half. But again, when Connor Harrell went out, that was all she wrote. And it also pointed out something else that we talked about at the last podcast was Connor Harrell's value as a multi-dimensional quarterback. Now, he was hurt on a run, which, if you're the coaching staff, is like, this is why we don't want him to run a whole lot. But they were hanging in there when he was doing the things that he's best at. Run the ball, throwing it to some degree of effectiveness. He was being multidimensional and pretty good at it. When he went out, I think that showed just how valuable he is to that team.
Well, and see, Tim Albin said after the game that at least he thought, I couldn't see what Connor Harrell hit on the sideline. To me, it just looked like he took a big hit because the folks around me in the press box, when he took that hit, I'm like, ooh. And I mean, I said it out loud because it was, he took a licking. And Albin said he hit what looked like a medical like equipment table, like, you know, where they sit up and get like feet wrapped or legs wrapped, whatever. But it was behind the, you know, the dotted line where it was supposed to be. But apparently that's what Albin said that he hit. And he said one of their corners, Ja'Qurious Conley, also hit that a few drives earlier, you know, on defense. I don't know that to be true, but whatever happened, obviously it got him out of his pads really quick, and he was on the sidelines on crutches, so it wasn't good. The biggest takeaway, at least from this Rice game to me, was I didn't, the previous two games, Monmouth and North Carolina, I didn't see a turning point, like a spot where I was like, okay, well, if Charlotte gets this stop and then manages a field goal or manages a touchdown, this can be a turning point. Last time I saw a game like this was App State, where once App State got rolling, I didn't see a turning point for Charlotte in that game. Even in this Rice game, even when it was close, I was just like, why am I not seeing a turning point where Charlotte can do this and it'll lead to this? I didn't see that, and whatever they can do in this bye week to, I guess, conjure up enough good plays or whatever. They got a tough test next week against South Florida on October the 3rd. South Florida is they're a good team. You can take that Miami game where they lost that game and kind of throw that one out the window. Miami's number 2 in the country. I mean, Miami is very, very good. South Florida's beaten Boise State. They beat Florida. I don't see a possibility where Charlotte keeps us within 2 touchdowns.
This is the part of the season where you can just call it the gauntlet.
Yeah, slightly.
It's like, okay, your easy games are over. Well, your relatively easy games are over. North Carolina, they lost to, they're not very good. App State is adjusting to first-year folks and all that. Monmouth, FCS, a very good FCS team, but still FCS. So there's a deficit of scholarship talent on board. Now you're going to have to play big boy pads. And this is the spot where we will find out exactly where Charlotte is headed, not necessarily in terms of wins and losses this year, but I think it will establish some culture moving forward. And what does that culture look like? Is this going to be a culture that says we're outgunned, but we do have fighters on this team who are going to keep games close and stick around until the bitter end and build off that?
I agree, and I think Alvin is trying to instill a culture of plucky stick-to-itiveness, if you will.
Okay.
But when you're getting boat raced week after week, and like I said, I think this one against South Florida in a few Fridays is going to be that scenario. Now, I will say this. The game after that against Army could be a little closer than I once thought it was going to be. Army is not very good this year. 1-2, 0-1 in the American. They still do their thing with the option stuff. I mean, their quarterback is leading in passing at 230 yards, but also is leading in rushing yards at 217. So there's that. But they haven't. I mean, they're 6-point underdogs against East Carolina this week, And I mean, East Carolina, yeah, they've beaten some much lesser opponents, but I thought this game would be really, really close on the spread, even maybe Army slightly favored over ECU. Shows what I know. That game could be a little bit closer, but then you got Temple. That was a game that people thought was winnable. But they're 74% favorites on the ESPN analytics. They're 2-2, haven't played a conference game yet, but North Texas a lot better than. I mean, they're undefeated.
Yeah, they went to Army and won.
Yeah, and then you go to East Carolina, UTSA, Georgia, Tulane. It's murderer's row.
Yeah, and there's a very real possibility that Charlotte won't win any of those games.
Yeah, I know when we were talking preseason about the over/under season wins being at 2.5, and some even had it at 3.5. We're like, oh well, we think Charlotte can get 3 wins. It ain't looking promising now.
Nah.
If Connor Harrell isn't able to play anymore,
that makes it worse.
Yeah, it's over.
That makes it worse. But I don't know. At the start of the season, there was a little bit of a back and forth in terms of who's going to be the starting quarterback. Is one player clear cut number one? I think that after this sample size of 4 games, there's a clear cut number one.
Oh yeah,
and he's maybe coming back.
Yeah, I mean, no one knows. Albin was. I mean, he said he would obviously get an MRI, things like that, but. No presser this week with it being a bye week, so everything's hush hush. No coaches show on WFNZ or anything, so we won't really know anything until next week's presser. I'm sure myself or one of the other handful of folks that go to the midweek pressers will ask that question, if Connor is available, and we'll probably get the runaround coach speak answer, and you don't want to give out any secrets, but.
It won't be a secret come Saturday.
If Connor plays, if Connor doesn't play, I think you're playing to keep it close if you're playing him. Sometimes I think coaches know their limitations. I'm not saying you go into this game thinking, okay, well, let's lose by a manageable amount. You play every game to win. But sometimes there's just a realization of you're outmatched. Why risk putting him back in early in a game that, even with him, you're probably still going to lose by 10 or more. That would be my thoughts. And I know you're always wanting to play your best if they're available, but don't put the kid in jeopardy is, I guess, my biggest thing. If he's not 100%, don't roll him out in a game that he's going to have to throw for 600 yards and 5 touchdowns just to even have a prayer to win.
Or even if he's put in positions where he has to run for his life all the time.
Which is also a very, very good possibility. South Florida, they got some big boys up front, so that is also a very good possibility. How many more wins do you see on this schedule? South Florida, Army, Temple, North Texas, ECU, UTSA, Georgia, and Tulane.
East Carolina, maybe.
Really?
And perhaps the East Carolina folks will feel insulted by hearing that. But
well, I mean, Charlotte's 2-0 against them.
And it's also an in-state rivalry game. So emotionally, there will be that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody else looks pretty daunting, I think, if you're Charlotte. This is going to be very difficult. And if you're asking who out of that group, East Carolina looks like it could be the most gettable. I'm not even saying they're gettable, but I'm saying they're the most gettable only because of the emotional content end of this. And who knows, there may be something else that's going on in terms of injury or whatever else.
Well, East and then maybe give or take Temple. Temple's playing a little bit better than most people thought,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to say surefire L's, South Florida, UTSA, Georgia, Tulane, and North Texas. So there you got 3 other games in there with Temple, East Carolina, and Army. Army's going to be tough sledding just because they run that same style of offense that we saw with Rice. Temple, if you catch them, I mean, it is at home. If you catch them on a bad day, possibly. But then East Carolina, given the fact it's a rivalry game. Charlotte does have recent success against them. But yeah, I mean, 5 L's minimum. I don't see a route to victory against South Florida, North Texas, UTSA, Georgia, or Tulane. I don't see it.
So based on that, we're talking 1-11.
If they lose all 3 of those games that are possibly winnable.
Yeah.
Well, it's like we talked about. I know we're getting a little heavy on the football side, but I'll wrap it with this. It's like we talked about with earlier before the season started. Those first 4 games, I said they could either be 1-3, or they could probably be 3-1. With App State being new and all that hoopla around that game, I thought Charlotte had a decent chance to maybe come out on top in that game. They were up after the first quarter, and the wheels fell off. Okay, You go on to North Carolina. They hit you with a big play to start the game, and then it's like, okay, now we're playing from behind the 8 ball again. They make that game relatively manageable. I mean, it was 13-3 the rest of the way. So their defense played at a level to where they're like, okay, maybe we found something. Monmouth, you come back, you have a great offensive outpouring, you get a win. And then Rice, I'm thinking, get to 2-2. That's a decent non-conference for Tim Alvin's first year. Nothing. So they finished the first option that we talked about, 1-3. If they went 0-4 in the non-conference, I thought it was probably going to be a winless season. But 1-3, I think there's 3 more chances of getting a win on the schedule. Who's it going to be? Yeah, I know you say East Carolina. I'm not sold on that. I think it'll be either Temple or East Carolina. I think Army's going to be a little too tough being at Army. Rough year. But
to say the least.
I would just caution 49er fans to be show a little grace. This was a schedule that no first-year coach would have ever envisioned for themselves.
And he didn't put it together.
Of course. But that's kind of my point. I don't think he would have. I mean, yes, he took the job because it was a great opportunity for him. He and his wife really enjoyed being here from what, they say. But this is just a rough first year. That's really all there is to it. And just give him some grace. Give him a grace year. Every first year coach, especially with this schedule, deserves a grace year. And if next year there's no progress, give him the biff.
Now, 2 years might still be a little premature, but that's just me saying that.
Well, I guess that brings me back to another point. Was Biff's mouth his undoing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because, he didn't even get 2 years.
Yeah, he was great copy, but not a whole lot of execution.
Fair enough.
It was great copy, but he's
enough.
Doing great at Michigan.
I know. He beat Nebraska, and man, did you see his thing on the clip after the game? They're like, "What are you gonna do to celebrate?" He's like, "I'm gonna eat some Haagen-Dazs coffee ice cream with my wife and smoke a Cuban cigar and then go to the hospital."
Well, at least it didn't say I'm going to Disney World, but that's with Biff, you never can tell.
You might never know, but all in all, it's enough pigskin talk for today.
Mm-hmm.
On to the hoopage.
Yes.
The hard court. It is, after all, right around the corner from basketball season. It's like all this hype about football season. It's starting. We're full throttle into football season. And, time for basketball.
Yeah.
49ers, both men's and women's, started their practice this week. I actually got a chance to talk with Coach Tamika Reed of the women's basketball team one-on-one for about 5-10 minutes. And sometimes, your best interviews and your best stories come out of impromptu conversations.
Yep.
I just asked a simple question about what she learned most in year one. Because any coach that has the amount of success she had in the SWAC at Jackson State, an 11-21 season, as I put in my story, it can be humbling, humiliating, or both.
Slap in the face, even.
Humiliating. But she internalized that in a way that was quite interesting to me. She's like, look, She's like, I'm just gonna be honest. I was very burnt out when I got the job here, and naturally, I'm like, I've got my story lead right there. And she went on to explain how, as a black coach, she was trying to bring the SWAC to prominence because for years she's seen it. Other coaches in the conference have seen it. A lot of snooty folk, I guess, looked down on HBCUs, and it was her goal to bring them to prominence. She had a lot of success in doing so, put Jackson State on the big-time map, making the NCAA tournament, and just things like that. And so she was pouring her soul into bringing good vibes, I guess you could say, to SWAC basketball. And she's like, I did that so much, and it was mentally taxing, physically taxing. And she's just like, I was a little tired. And she was very honest about it. She's like, my successes there afforded me this job, but I felt almost guilty in a way because I had never felt that, I guess, her lack of enthusiasm, or because if you've ever met Tamika Reed, and I know for those listening on the podcast, if you haven't met her and actually spoken with her, you may not know this, but she is a very energetic person. And she's like, I lacked that a lot, and I did the best I could with some of the players that we recruited last year, but a lot of them just didn't know how to run my system, run it the way I wanted to, and so we managed. She's like, this year I was intentional with recruiting players I knew that modeled kind of my character, and she says she thinks this year she not only is more rejuvenated, but she's got the team around her that embodies more of what she is as a coach. And so, look, I'm not going to put any win total on this season. It's a tough non-conference. I know we talked about this before the podcast started, but you start with Auburn, then you have Campbell, but then you got Central Florida, LSU, California. It's not easy. I know that Coach Reed's got some experience playing LSU. At Jackson State, played LSU when what's the WNBA player that was on that LSU team? Angel Reese.
Yeah.
And so she's familiar with LSU. But look, it's not an easy non-conference. You even got Mississippi State in there. But they do have two local opponents. Well, I say local, Winthrop's and Rock Hill, but they've got Davidson and Winthrop coming to Halton Arena, so those should be interesting games on December the 14th and 17th. The conference schedule will come out a little bit later. Overall, I just think with her new attitude, I guess, and it wasn't to say that she had a negative attitude last year, but being burnt out is being burnt out. Everybody deals with it. You and I deal with it, I'm sure, probably more than most in the newspaper industry. It can be taxing, and being the coach of a Division I program can be taxing as well. I know Tamika a little bit better probably than you do, but what's your take on this? And do you think that she's in a position to have a better season?
I think that once you do some introspection from season to season, it gives you an opportunity to have a reset. And if she can pull the reset off, and if you've done your self-scouting, this is what I did well, this is where I failed, this is where I failed miserably, and as a result, these things happen, then you can go about fixing things. I think that her number one issue last year wasn't necessarily the wear and tear of making the transition from Jackson State to Charlotte. I think it was in recruiting. And like I tell anybody who'll listen, it's not always about X's and O's.
Jimmys and Joes.
And she didn't have the right Jimmys and Joes in place to get her where she needed to go. And so
I think last year's team lacked a lot of shooting. And that's one thing that, I mentioned in the story as well. She talked about how this conference is so different from the SWAC, and that you got a lot of shooters in the American compared to the SWAC, where most teams were dribble drive.
Drivers.
I mean, you didn't see 15 to 23s put up in a game by a lot of those teams, whereas in the American, there are a lot of teams that can shoot the net off the rim. It's just as simple as that. And she recruited players that did what she was accustomed to. And when you've got paint presences like the American has and a lot of good paint protectors, driving to the basket ain't always going to be a cakewalk.
Yeah, you got to be able to spread things out where you can't just clog the lane, because that's where basketball is these days. Even on the women's side, everybody's in love with the three-point shot.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're not capable of dunking the ball, you better be really good at shooting it. And I think that is the one thing that she would need more of this year. Probably wouldn't hurt to have some defense too. No. But first and foremost, you need to be able to outscore folks. And the only way you can do that is to either get to the hoop for fouls or be really proficient at long range or mid range, which is a lost art in basketball.
I know that, man. It kills me. I know at Hornets games, me and some of the other media talk about the lost art of the mid range. I mean, Jordan wouldn't be Jordan without the midi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the mid range jumper is just something that people will look at it and say that is the most inefficient shot in basketball. They're not wrong based on analytics and based on statistics, but if you can perfect that, I mean, look at Tim Duncan, the little turnaround, bank shot from 15 to 20. It's just such a thing that was utilized better back in the day, to where now, if people aren't jacking them up from 25 to 30 or getting a breakaway layup, you're not seeing scoring. And it makes basketball almost, I don't want to say
difficult to watch.
Well, I don't want to say not watchable, but difficult is one thing to say for sure. But I can just talk about my experiences watching Charlotte basketball in recent years, covering the ACC championships at the Spectrum Center. Teams don't shoot mid-range shots.
I mean, it's one or the other.
It's either you're posting up trying to get to the rim, get layups or dunks, or you're shooting the three, and that's all there is. And if you are able, I mean, look, just the post fadeaway from 20 feet, I would even say 15 to 20 feet, anywhere in that range, bring it back.
Well,
people are so analytics driven that they lose, honestly, something that can get you another, I'd say, 20 points a game if you had two players that could shoot a 17 to 20 foot jumper.
Yeah. There is a lot to be said for if you are efficient 15 to 20 or inefficient beyond the arc, which is the better move to make?
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you want
because the analytics will say, well, if you're taking a 20-foot jumper, step back that far and shoot a three.
But that's still a more inefficient shot.
Yeah.
But that's a totally different podcast.
Yeah, we're down a little bit of a rabbit hole here. But overall, I think this team is headed in the right direction. They only returned 3 players from a season ago, which was kind of like
get to know you. Put on a scorecard or tape over your uniform.
They're having one of those back to school first day things, meet and greets. It's like, oh, hey, I am so and so. 3 of my hobbies are this.
Yeah, and put it on the coaching staff too, because nobody knows anybody else except for the 3 returning players and the staff. And so that's going to require some acclimation as well, which I think we're going to get a better sense of Coach Reed's acumen and leadership ability in year 2. Year 1, yeah, everybody throws that one away. It's the rare bird that can come out smoking right out of the gate in year 1. Year 2, we're going to get a much better read on Coach Reed and how she can potentially lead this program, because everybody wants it. Hey, winning is great for business. It's not even good for business. It's great for business. And if she can put the 49ers in a position to lift the profile of women's basketball in Charlotte, I think that's a real plus, because it hasn't happened for women's hoops since the Charlotte Sting folded shop way back when. So I think that the campus can find a reason to rally around her, but she's got to be able to win. And we're going to find out real soon whether that's possible, because the American Conference is going to pose its own challenges, and I think that's where the model for success will rise or fall with her. Can you win in conference? But I think we're going to get a pretty good idea of what she's capable of in non-conference, especially when they go out and play LSU, because LSU, nationally prominent program, Hall of Fame coach, on and on. Can the 49ers hang with the Tigers?
It's going to be that is going to be a test.
Yeah, and then you're talking about the other SEC teams that they're playing. I think all of that in total gives us a good idea of where that program is headed, because who was there? Mississippi State and Auburn?
Auburn, yep.
Yeah, so if you can come out of that SEC part of the schedule 2-1, and if you're 3-0, everybody's going to sit up and pay attention then, because that means you also beat LSU.
That's true. One thing you mentioned a little bit ago, you talked about it's hard to come out, smoke and mirrors in year one. As it relates to men's basketball, you saw after Aaron Fern was named the interim, he comes out in year one, 19-12, gets the 3 seed in the American, has a great American Conference record, but then loses in the first round of their first game of the American Conference tournament. Hasn't had so much success in last season. Obviously, with the transfer portal, it's hard to keep players. They lost Igor Milicic, Sakai Patterson, and Deshaun Jackson. But where do you see the men's side of this going? I know men's wasn't on the docket today, but I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on this. You said it's hard to come out smoking mirrors in year one. He did that. Didn't have as great a success in year 2. Now you've got year 3. What do you think Aaron Fern needs to do to solidify some job security?
Get you some Jimmys and Joes. I mean, it always comes down to that. And even though we're in an age where people are demanding bucks to play beyond the scholarship, and some are commanding really big bucks, I think you also have to have something that you can sell these recruits on. Some programs recruit as underdogs. Some recruit as blue bloods, which is Charlotte. And to me, that's the key to pulling together a successful roster. Can you go out and recruit the under-recruited, but they're people who have skills and can be developed and will have a sense of loyalty to you because you believed in them when nobody else did? And will that stand the test of, hey, we're going to shake a few $1,000s at you and maybe get you to leave? So you have to recruit for that, I think. And then the other side of that is, can you recruit to your system, or because of the modern era, you have to be able to use flexibility and coach to the strengths of your roster. So where is Aaron Fern in that? Are you a developer who can take folks who are maybe undervalued and turn them into a winning unit? Or will you be more rigid and say, well, this is the Aaron Fern system. I'm recruiting for that system.
Couldn't have put it better myself.
Hey, I'm working on it.
This guy over here is an all-pro. But as we kind of bring this to a close, we are getting mighty long on the 49ers. I
surprisingly long-winded.
I know. I don't want to sound like a broken record. It sounds like we say the same things over and over, and loss after loss after, this is what needs to change, this is what needs to change. Have some faith, keep some optimism. I know a lot of folks, they give the AD a lot of flack, and
it's okay to say Mike Hill's name. Mike is a good dude.
Mike is an FOTP.
Yeah, and even if he weren't, it's like, hey, he has a job to do, and he knows his job depends on success because it's good for business as far as he's concerned too.
It is. And look, I'm not here to play buddies with this man. If he's not doing his job right, he deserves a criticism. But I think he's not going out and making hires just to make hires. He is legitimately trying to find talent that's going to bring wins to Charlotte. And he has had success in all the sports that fans say don't matter.
The non-barbershop sports. So let's put it like that.
I know that's your coin saying. But it's not like he's not trying. And I'm not going to sit here and try to vouch for him. But give it a little bit of time. Let Aaron try to get some folks in there. Let Tamika try to get some folks in there to just get a culture. Charlotte hasn't had a culture since Bobby Lutz.
You know how long ago that was?
I was like...
That was many moons ago.
I mean, it has been a long time, and that's not throwing shade on Ron Sanchez or any...
That's just the hardcore truth.
It is the truth. And, I mean, women's basketball, for a short stint with Carrick and Swager, had some success, but the transfer portal has hurt Charlotte hoops, I'd say, probably more than any other sports, including football. Football, yes, it has taken some decent players away from the program. It has ruined basketball. And that's countrywide. You look at mid-majors and you look at a group of 5 schools, they struggle to keep a consistent roster because your UNCs, your Kentuckys, all these
blue
teams,
bloods,
they are coming and they're poaching your players. It's just it's nothing that people don't know. It happens. But if Charlotte's able to keep some players around and build culture, I think they can have success. I'm not saying they're going to be competing for Final Fours anytime soon. I mean, this ain't the 1970s.
No. And Cornbread Maxwell has been, he's moved on from college a long time ago.
Yeah. Cornbread's a friend.
And Chad Kids.
Yeah, I still talk with Cornbread a little bit. I think Cornbread could be to Charlotte what Steph Curry is to Davidson, like an advisor. Yeah. I think, we'll let Mike make that decision. Let's wrap it.
Yes.
Go to charlottepost.com. That is where you will find all of our 49ers reporting, including my most recent article on Tamika Reed and her rejuvenated spirits heading into her second season. While you're there, right up at the top, subscribe, donate. They're side by side, so you can do both at the same time.
Doesn't take much effort.
It does not. Because after all, while you consuming this is free, it's not free to produce, and we don't get, paid to do nothing. So this is what we get paid to do. Support us. If you enjoy our reporting, you enjoy our podcast, subscribe to our sports newsletter. That is your quick weekly roundup as to all the major events going on in sports at the Charlotte Post. It comes out every Thursday, written by this guy. And
that one.
What?
That guy.
Well, it's the newsletter is written by him. There are stories in there published by me. Man, let's wrap this up.
Okay,
but
please.
At any rate, we would greatly appreciate it. But thank you for watching and listening on YouTube, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you back next week.